All right, guys. Balance. Well, sort of, kind of. I mean, with Boots,
Well, definitely.
Well, okay. So obviously the layoffs at the studio are going on at the moment. There was inclement weather a bit back. I think they had a balance patch ready for us a while ago now. I think it was going to be in the first half of February, and due to these delays, we still haven't seen it. So Ireneo went on the forums, and at like 1 o'clock in the middle of the night, my time, it was late for you, right, Boots, at the time?
Yeah, it was like 10 or something like that.
Yeah,
9?
really late at night, basically just put a forum post out and said, hey guys, look, here's balance. And in a pretty cool experience here, we get to look at the balance before it came into the game and discuss it, which is kind of what Boots and I do anyway. We kind of have our first impressions and we throw them out. So I'm quite excited to look down this list and we can see what is coming, hopefully on Tuesday, but they haven't actually announced just yet. Who knows how long it will get pushed back because of the turbulence of the studio. I think you're quite optimistic, right, Boots, that it will be Tuesday?
I think it'll be Tuesday.
Well, hopefully...
Because they have these balance patch notes ready, which means, in my mind, that they were going to do it last Tuesday if it wasn't for the unfortunate things that happen.
Yeah. So this means actually, guys, that the footage isn't going to be that good because there's really nothing to show in game. So we're going to be on the website pretty much the whole way through here. But yeah, so let's see what they say. Ireneo says, greetings all. I posted last week. We were looking forward to talking to you all about the balance changes once the release went live. Due to delays, that obviously hasn't happened. We're getting the balance notes to you now so that you can speculate on how they will affect your gameplay. We won't be discussing with you yet, however, as the changes aren't live. I hope you'll enjoy theory crafting for now and take the time to try out the changes and join the discussion about them when they arrive. As a quick note, it's easy to judge a change in isolation. I ask that you consider how the full set of changes in tandem will affect Tyria. Sincerely, the systems team. So,
it's an interesting side note there.
What do you mean?
I mean, have they ever said that before? Like, it sounds like they're afraid of what people will say about these things.
I think it's more because he's releasing the notes early.
Okay.
And people can't play it. I mean, it kind of doesn't matter anyway because people will knee-jerk response. That's kind of what this series is, right? And what people do immediately on Reddit and the forums and stuff. So, but hey, so first of all, we've got a couple of general changes we'll just throw out of the way very quickly. Number one, fixed a bug in which some ring effects with a range of 600 were appearing larger than they should. Do you know what that means, Boots? I don't.
I'm guessing that the effect, like, you know, when you place an AoE down, and if the range was 600, the AoE ring of 600 looked bigger than it was actually going to be.
Oh, actually, I do know. You just said that, and you've taught me a thing there. I do know what this is about. Ring effects, they're talking about... I was thinking, like, the hollow collapse singularity ability for some reason. But no, they're talking about, like, Spectral Wall became Spectral Ring, right? And
except that's not a range. Oh wait,
that is the animation for that.
Yeah.
Is the animation for that was not or currently is not lined up with the hitbox. That's true. That must be exactly what they're talking about. And I guess probably the Guardian Fire Ring, maybe Ellie Fire Dagger is like that.
Oh, I was gonna say maybe Phoenix, but I think that's not a range of 600. I think that's 900.
I don't think that's a ring either, is it? It's not a ring.
Well, not exactly. Yeah, you're right. It's just an AoE.
All right. So next we got Exhaustion. If you guys don't know, this is kind of a peculiar thing. It only affects a couple of the classes. It's like if you're playing a dash thief, you cleanse, immob, or chill, or cripple, or whatever with your dodge. If you do that, though, it gives you exhaustion, which reduces your incoming endurance acquisition. Mirage got this as a balance for one of its GMs and pushed everyone onto a potentially far worse GM, honestly, for the state of the game. But anyway, it's now changed. This boon... I hate the way they call that a boon. It's not a boon. Anyway.
Yeah, especially since, like, what if you have boon duration increase? Does this mean that your negative effect is going to be increased as well?
They need to call it, like, active effect or...
This effect,
yeah. I mean, buff kind of fits, but it's not actually a positive... It's not a buff. It's not a positive modifier, so I would just say active effect. Anyway, this boon now stacks in duration up to 3 times. So... That
could be very effective... bad.
Yeah, I don't... this is one of those things. It's actually hard to guess how bad this could be. But of the things that are being inflicted with exhaustion right now, that could be a serious thing. So don't just dismiss that out of hand, guys. Next, you got Confusion, and this one's pretty minor. This no longer deals damage when a skill is prevented from activating due to an invalid position of the target relative to the caster. So, I think I know exactly how to interpret that. Do you also, Boots, and do you want to explain?
I think so. Like, let's say you have a Confusion and you are an Elementalist and you have a skill that, like, automatically targets people in range because you have auto-targeting on, but you're obstructed.
Right.
And you keep on trying to spam it because it's an it's an effect and it just keeps on, like, canceling.
Yeah.
But you keep on getting the damage from Confusion.
Target is out of range, target is out of range, target is out of range kind of thing.
Exactly.
Or also when you're running away from a mob or a player or something and you try to use an ability on them, but you have to be facing them, Confusion would proc even though your character didn't do anything in the past. And I suppose if you spam the button fast enough, you could actually do significant damage to yourself with that Confusion. Well,
and we all know everyone spams their buttons.
yeah, but all told, I don't think that's a huge thing. It's just about housekeeping, I guess. Anyway, so that's the general changes. And now we've got the 9 classes. We want to do Elementalists together, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
So the devs, once again, are giving us their thoughts on the changes before delivering the changes themselves, which
I really enjoy.
Yeah, me too. I'm happy to see. Do you want to read out the LE1, Boots?
Sure. In this update, and in the future, we're looking to enhance the support role of Tempest through boons, healing, and cleansing. They already have pretty good healing, but yeah. Specific to today's release, we've adjusted the Tempest support through its skills, shouts, and traits. With this in mind, we've added some classic elemental attunement support to each of the shouts, and we've altered tempestuous area so that its support functions are easier to access for Tempest players.
Right, so one thing I really like from their message there is they actually establish a bit of a roadmap. They do this a lot in the balance patches, and I wonder how often I really feel them following through. But in the future as well, not just this patch, but they're continuing to enhance support for Tempest. So
yeah,
and I actually think that. So this is really a Tempest balance patch, just by the way, guys.
It is.
Okay.
It is, and it seems like this is their first step to seeing if this is enough for to make Tempest, good enough support Healy, or they'll have to do more later.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what format we're looking at, but people seem pretty excited by this. There's one Weaver change in here and one cause. So, yeah, let's see what they got. Conjure Frostbow, they changed the name of the item from Ice to Frost. They've been...
Finally.
This one here, the Sand Squall. Do you want to read that out? That one's big, right?
This is important, yeah. So Sand Squall is that skill on the Warhorn, skill 4 Earth, I think? Mm-hmm. Or 5 Earth?
4 Earth.
4 Earth.
Yeah.
That increases the boon duration of all boons on you for 2 seconds for you and your allies, 5 allies.
Yep.
But now they've increased the boon duration that the skill boon duration increase that the skill grants from 2 to 3 seconds. So that's already a big buff. And then also the number of allies affected by this is increased from 5 to 10
with no trait investment.
No trade investment.
Quite a lot of the time, to get to the 10 targets, you're trading for it in other places in the game. But here, boom. But that is an extremely powerful skill. So the comparison here is to Signet of Inspiration, okay? Which also has had its own changes we'll get to later. But let's just imagine the current Signet of Inspiration for this discussion for now, right? Even with that comparison, you look at Sand Squall. Sand Squall doesn't just now extend these boons for 3 seconds, but also its protection, AoE, around... I mean, this is going to be a weird skill because some of it...
It's a very good skill now.
It's going to give Earth Aura to the Ellie, protection to 5 targets, and then all boons to 10 targets. So, like, hits various scales at once, right? And
then won't it also swap over to... Because you get an aura, doesn't it swap over to the aura exploding skill afterwards?
No. It's the only ones that turn into transmute auras are when the skill...
Or the specific aura.
Yeah, exactly. So that would be Earth 3 on Staff. Sand Squall doesn't flip, but Sand Squall is a super loaded ability, to be honest. Now you might argue that's insane. Why does Ellie get all of that? Blah blah blah. Doesn't have to dedicate utility skill and stuff. But here's the thing: the rest of the Warhorn kit, in a weird way, like kind of drag. When you're a Chrono and you've got like Signet of Inspiration, obviously there's the double casting and there's certain other interactions, but you're free to do whatever you want with your weapon skills. But for Ellie, Sand Squall kind of is sitted historically in a kit that might be a bit awkward and clunky to work with. That said, though, this change, obviously we had 10-man Might and Fury from heatsink recently.
From the fire one, yeah.
Honestly, there's a lot of reason to run a Warhorn Tempest in today's Guild Wars 2, I think, after this change. It's very, very, very potent, so...
yeah.
I mean, the Chronos might be a little bit salty about that, maybe, but hey, I don't think...
I don't know,
because the Ellie isn't
diversity.
providing quickness and alacrity in abundance. It's not like they're totally overlapping, right?
Right.
But yeah, so, wow, what a change, man. What a change. Next, we got Wash the Pain Away. This skill now cleanses one condition from nearby allies on its final pulse. Have you got any thoughts on that? Because I do.
Not a lot of thoughts. It's nice. It was already a very strong heal skill for allies.
Well, so for me, as I look at Tempest stuff, I'm really looking at support Tempest in the competitive modes, where right now it's, I think, massively outshone by Firebrand. And there's a real problem when you play a support Tempest in PvP at the moment. Most people don't have an eye for this, but I've really tried it enough that you have to kind of know whether you're going against lots of power damage or condi damage at the start, so that you know whether to run the fancy new fire version with all the transmutes and all the cleanse via transmute, or whether you need to go earth to pick up the fact you won't be crit and you can spread protection out and stuff. So it feels really bad when you're running the earth version and all of a sudden you need a ton of cleanse. The Wash the Pain Away baseline giving just a bit more cleanse is a nice counterbalance to that might mean earth is more often.
It's not a lot of cleanse, but yeah.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
I see what you're saying.
So I'm skeptical that it's, really going to help much. The truth is, I think with Tempest versus Firebrand goes so far away and ahead because of all the CC it has and pressure on demand when it goes into F1 that Tempest, people think of Tempest as like a DPS-y kind of support, and it's really not. Like, air overloads are very time consuming and prohibitive to use in any scenario where you're in a big fight, while Firebrand can so easily get into that F1, still have a lot of powerful utilities and mantras it's popping while doing its stuff. Anyway, yeah.
I would just like to point out, though, that yes, I agree with you, but it's only one cleanse from allies, and not only that, but it's also on the final pulse.
Yeah.
So
well, that's actually nice because the final pulse is the bigger range, right? Like.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be better if it was on the first pulse, that way that if you had poison on you, you could get rid of it before healing everybody?
That's a good point. Yeah, actually, that's a nice little aspect of it I didn't think of at all. Not that it'd necessarily prioritize poison over other things.
No, it wouldn't, but still.
But it's a tricky one. I could talk a lot about support Tempest. Do I think that? Well, let's keep going through the patches next. Do you want to read out the other shouts here, Boots?
Sure.
We'll just go.
We got Feel the Burn, which now applies 3 stacks of might to nearby allies for 10 seconds in addition to its other effects. And updated the effects to more accurately represent the attack's radius. Updated the hit detection to be more consistent at close distances.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it looks like for all of the things they added an extra little thing to each of the shouts.
Yeah, let's dig through all of them. Yeah, go for the next one.
Yeah, so 3 stacks of might is like a whatever. But Flash Freeze, 4 seconds of regeneration to nearby allies in addition to its other effects, which doesn't seem so impressive, but when you think that you have traits that remove conditions with regeneration as well when you give it to allies, that could be a little more effective now.
Yep.
Aftershock, this now applies 5 seconds of protection to nearby allies in addition to its other effect. That's pretty good.
Definitely.
Eye of the Storm now applies 10 seconds of swiftness in addition to its other effects. Maybe not that important, but not bad. And then Rebound, although you know what, with that Weaver trait.
Well,
except
you
wouldn't be
Tempest,
Weaver,
yeah.
would be Tempest. Yeah, it doesn't even matter. Doesn't even matter. And then Rebound, this skill now applies 5 seconds of Fury to nearby allies in addition to its other effects.
Yeah, so the Fury I really like because I was just talking, you guys haven't seen it yet, but there's an Elite Speculation coming up where I was talking to Boots a lot about how Arcane is synchronized with crits, and Rebound kind of wasn't, but now it gives Fury, and it is. Look, the devs, they know. Yes, Swiftness is rubbish, man. Yes, it's a boon, but it's like you get you're given super speed on that, so it's now super speed and swiftness. Very strange.
Extended additional speed, I guess. I don't know.
The Flash Freeze regeneration, it means you could take the trait that means Shout supply regen, and so Flash Freeze would be a double packet of regen and a double cleanse.
And a double cure.
So maybe there's a thing there, maybe, but the Shout's by default aura share, so you can run cleansing water without taking powerful or not feel too bad necessarily. Maybe there's some ways you can fiddle it, but I don't think this is quite enough really.
No.
I've always believed, though, that the way to do this and achieve this parity between supports is actually to bring Firebrand down more than buff Tempest up. You said earlier that Tempest has a lot of healing. I actually think it might be lacking a little bit on that as well, just a little bit. But yeah, it's more the offense areas of the builds, I think, that are operating at a different level here.
Yeah, but now hold on a second, though.
Mm-hmm.
Did we get to the last point on here yet?
Yeah, so the last change, Tempestuous Area. This trait now also modifies Tempest Shouts to affect up to 10 targets in addition to its current effects.
Yes. It's the one that gives shouts. Shouts give allies might and weakness to foes.
Oh, so this is just turbocharged the shout trait.
Yeah, and it reduces, I think, the recharge of shouts as well.
So that's good because you're not having to give up the regen and vigor and all that stuff. For competitive modes, this doesn't mean much, but for the PvE modes, I mean, this adds a lot to support Tempest. The way I've seen some people talking about this patch, it's as though support Tempest is dead and isn't a thing, and now, oh look, they're buffing it, so it might be a thing, which is ludicrous. You can actually run support Tempest very viably in several places already. Now you get this up to 10 targets. Oof. It's interesting to.
Although no, it does compete with the regeneration of vigor.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought. Yeah, it's competing with.
But it does.
Vigor.
Yeah, but it doesn't compete with the healing of allies for the auras.
Right, exactly, which is the main one, which is why it's so important that this isn't in the Grandmaster slot, right? But still, I think that's really interesting. Also, you remember when they started doing 10 target stuff? They said they kind of had to be careful, like, because of service stuff or whatever. It's interesting to me that these shouts now do a lot of different things. Lots of boons are being applied and stuff, and it's going up to 10 targets at once.
Yeah.
So...
yeah, I don't know if that's a thing anymore.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so lots of 10 target stuff, and I think we'll see some exciting things across the board and all the formats, really, from Ellie with that. And then...
it's a huge buff.
Yeah.
Huge buff for Tempest. It should be interesting.
And then we have the Weaver change. So it's the Elite. Do you want to talk about it?
Sure. Weave Self, the toughness effect provided by Woven Earth, has now been replaced by 20% reduction of incoming physical damage.
Right. So that's pretty nice, actually. I think that the Elite is one of the things I'd like to see shuffled a bit for Weaver. 20% reduction instead of toughness is huge. That's a big buff for the Elite.
How much was the toughness before? It was 320 toughness. That's a lot of toughnness anyway, though.
Do you think that...
I think that's less than 20% equivalency, though.
And the way that it stacks is different, right? Isn't it? Isn't 20% reduction... Oh, I hate these mathy bits. But anyway, as long as it's a buff, I think it's kind of... It's interesting that that's the one little thing on Weaver that it feels like it's on their lonely little island out in the middle of nothing, right? And it's like, well, why this change when we look at it in isolation? But hey, it was more of a Tempest patch, and there you have it.
Well, I think it might be because they have at least with with the Mercy runes and stuff like that, they have been moving away from just giving a ton of toughness on traits, temporary toughness.
Yeah.
So it's possible that they're just trying to do that for everything.
I wonder if we'll see Scepter 2 get that change later then.
Maybe.
Yeah, on Earth. So there you go. That's Elementalist. I hope you guys enjoyed it. A really, really precise patch. I would have liked to see more changes for Weaver and some core Ellie stuff, honestly. But... I mean, it's okay, and as a fan of Support Tempest and making sure that is what it was supposed to be as Heart of Thorn set it out to be, it's a good patch. So, we've got our other classes. Which one do you want to pick?
I don't know. Maybe I'll go.
Okay.
Why not?
All right, cool. What do you want to pick?
Let's go with Guardians, the highest up on the list.
Oh, Guardian, baby. All right, let's see.
Okay, so the little blurb is, Righteous Instincts have been an incredibly potent trait since it was reworked to grant a large boost of the player's critical hit chance. This is true. I like it a lot. Because of this, it has crowded out other Grandmaster options for the Radiance build. Damn it. In this update, we're bringing down the power of this trait to be more in line with other Grandmaster traits, to give a little boost to his competition. Fine. Furthermore, we are giving a small boost to staff and torch weapons and enhancing Hallowed Ground to help it achieve its purpose to help allies manage crowd control. That's true, Hallowed Ground hasn't really been that useful.
I agree.
Okay, so here we go. Symbol of Vengeance. Fixed a bug that caused this skill to function improperly with its Symbolic Avenger and Symbolic Power traits.
What was that?
I don't know what that bug was.
Yeah, me neither. I've got no clue.
Yeah, so good. They fixed a bug. True Shot, the range has been increased from 1200 to 1500. That's interesting.
Dude, yeah, what the hell? I mean, World versus Welders will be looking at us peeking up a little bit here while going for the War Claw. Get on your DHs, guys. I mean, the projectile move's kind of slow for 1500 range, a little bit, but
it is slow, but yeah, like maybe give Revenants a little run for their money with their hammer.
Dude, I really want a theory craft, like a total gimmick and not anything. It wouldn't be anything good, but I really want a theory craft, just kind of like a kill shot DH build thing, you know, that just loads.
Just let it go right through a Zerg.
Yeah, because it's AoE as well, right? Is it? Does it pierce? Does True Shot pierce?
It feels like it pierces. I don't know.
I know the 3 definitely pierces and goes through stuff as it knocks people away. Does True Shot pierce? But I really like the idea of sniping someone at the 1500. It would be good. I'm excited about that for that format.
Yeah, I'm looking up True Shot to see if it pierces right now. It does pierce. Yeah.
All right, there you go, guys.
Okay, then we have Tome of Justice Chapter 2, Igniting Burst, fixed a bug that could cause the skill to fail to hit foes at the center of his radius.
Hold on, can I just add on the True Shot thing? Someone will be sitting there grumpily thinking these guys aren't objective. 1500 range, things like that are really frustrating. I get it, they are really frustrating. But, you know, there's two sides.
But you already have a Ranger with, like, a knockdown at
1500 there's a Sikkim combo you can run on Ranger that turns the auto attack on Longbow into, like, a 20k burst. Is hilarious. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And I want to run that in World vs. as well too. So I mean, yeah. Anyway. So
you're getting ready for Tuesday, aren't you?
So hold on. This is F1 skill 2, which felt a bit limp in the past. It's just a bug. It's just a bug.
Well,
fix?
It didn't. Yeah, it's just a bug fix. It didn't really feel limp with regards to Condi damage, but anyway, Chapter 2 Igniting Burst fixed a bug that caused it to fail to hit foes at the center of its radius. So like if you're standing on top of well, no, because it's targeted, but if you put it right on top of somebody, apparently it sometimes fails to hit it.
Didn't know that in the first place, but fair enough.
Yeah, good. Cleansing Flame, this one's interesting. This is the Torch 5.
Okay.
Increase the skill's damage per hit by 21%, and the final hit of this attack inflicts 2 stacks of burning for 4 seconds.
That's interesting. I don't like the Torch 5, I'll be perfectly honest. Particularly,
I think maybe the reason why you don't like it is because, well, first of all, it never cures your conditions. It only cures your friend's conditions.
And it's just a clunky thing. Most of my experiences with it have been trying to use the support aspect of it more than me trying to use it for the DPS kind of.
Well, because for the DPS, it's always sort of been a loss of DPS. So that maybe this changes now with the 21% increase, and then especially for Condi builds, the 2 stacks of burning is a nice little bonus. So maybe it'll actually work its way into some Condi rotation.
I like the idea of that in competitive formats as well, where you see that if it's worth using now and people run it, you know to dodge the final tick. You know, I like that. That would be quite transparent, and you know that's the kind of fun stuff. More moments that you know you need to dodge is really what makes those formats kind of.
But
fun.
Also, based on certain things lower down in this update, the fact that it hits like 10 times really quickly is a big deal, and I'll show you in a little bit reason why.
Okay, cool. But
it'll definitely be used more often now.
I like the idea of that now, rounding it out, because like I said, I don't really like it because I was always trying. Now it's like a versatile skill that you'll have some opportunities where you can use the supporting aspect, but also it doesn't feel dead as much as it did. And not that it wasn't worth using offensively in the past, but yeah.
I would say now it is definitely worth using offensively, AoE version-wise. I'll show you why. Okay, so first of all, Hallowed Ground, this is the chains they were talking about, increases the skill's radius to 360.
Wow,
from 240.
That's a big radius right there.
It's pretty big. So now you could actually get your allies in it instead of them being inside.
Importantly, that's basically like you can cover a whole node as well, essentially. What was the functionality though? Pulses, stab, and retail, was it as well at the same time?
I think so, yeah.
See, pulsing stab is just so scary in a game where there's pulsing corrupts and very readily available corrupts. So I don't know. I like the idea of Hallowed Ground. There's Guardian utility slots are so competitive as well, you know. And this skill has always felt really close to Stand Your Ground, which I quite often feel is like, you know, my go-to based on, you know, what other traits and things I might be taking. So I don't know. I wish that it had a little something else.
I kind of have the opposite reaction to you about pulsing things versus big stacks of things for stab, for example, because if you are corrupted in a pulsing field, when you get the stab again, won't you? Oh wait, no, it doesn't. It's not a stun break. So
Yeah,
you'll just have
you
stab.
just keep running, and then it refreshes the fear. I don't know.
No, it won't refresh the fear.
Well, yeah, the second part. If you get feared and then you get stab on you again, and then the corrupt pulse comes again, the fear comes back again.
Oh yeah, if they lay the corrupting well on top.
Oh, it doesn't even have to be one skill. It can just be using a Scepter 3 and then corrupt boon, and then going into Shroud, and then coming out and using corrupt boon again, and then the well, and
they could stack. It's true.
Or whatever. Anyway, too much talk probably on that one little thing.
All right, yeah, way too much. Okay, but here's the big one for me, anyway, because I love Burn Guardian. Amplified Wrath. Instead of burning foes that the Guardian blocks, which was, I think, on a 1 or 2 second cooldown at the time, this trait now increases the duration of the burning passive effect applied by virtue of justice by 20%.
Well, damn. Okay, Amplified Wrath. We're not talking the Virtues GM right now,
this is the Radiance GM that gives 15% extra burning damage.
Oh, so it's just so heavily stacked on burning stuff now.
Exactly. Well, it had on the burn on block was also good, but it wasn't that useful. And this is just heavily stacked on like putting out the damage, nothing about
I have to say, I was playing a burn on block build a couple of months ago now, and I actually thought it was probably underrated. I thought it was okay, to be honest.
Yeah, I used to like my burn on block build, especially with Guardian runes. But honestly, this is pretty good.
So if you take this new Grandmaster with the Virtues Grandmaster,
you are going to be putting out a lot of damage.
And just to be clear to everyone, the Virtues Grandmaster increases the rate at which this burning passive effect ticks. So it would be proccing more frequently and lasting longer, essentially, across the two.
So to let you know, I'm pretty sure that the damage when I was testing it a while ago, the damage that I was doing just from the virtue trait, basically when it was traded, and the passive effect in a raid scenario, let's say, I think was 7k burning approximately. So just from the passive burning from Virtue of Justice.
Right.
Virtue of Justice.
The other thing that's quite interesting, I think, is the 20% won't be in expertise on your stat panel. It will just modify the skill itself, probably, which means that it doesn't compete with the other burn duration stuff that you get, so it's all gains. So it's nice. Yeah.
And so this is what makes me think that the Cleansing Flame change is even better, because you will use it more often now, and especially if it does 10 ticks in like 3 seconds, so that procs your Virtue of Justice quite a bit as well. Yeah.
There you go.
Anyway, moving on. Honourable Staff. This trait now grants 120 concentration plus an additional 120 concentration while wielding a staff. So they broke it down like they did some other traits.
Oh, by the way, that Amplified Wrath is what you wanted to mention in conjunction with the new Torch 5, right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. In addition to reducing staff skill recharge time. So it looks like that, yeah.
See, here's the thing with this. You look at the Tempest buff, right? Like, this is a competition between them. And Firebrand gets a little thing thrown in at the same time, They also buffed the staff trait quite recently with that weapon split effect, where it's...
But isn't that what this is?
What do you mean?
They split this before this?
Well, no, I'm thinking of the Greatsword trait. I do apologize.
Yeah,
it's the Greatsword trait that has heal on light fields, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to look it up, because I think this is when they're splitting it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, and there's not much of that in this release. That was one of the things I was going to say. On previous balance, everyone, obviously the dev said, look, we're doing this thing with weapon skills where we're making these traits worthwhile, even if you don't have the respective weapon equipped. We're giving you a little something. But this is one of the only examples of them continuing to do that in this patch, so I don't know whether they just feel content with where they are or what. I was expecting...
I think it's just that they didn't do all of the traits when they said they were doing it in
and they still
patch.
Haven't, though. So
they still haven't. They're doing it slowly over time, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, it used to be 200 concentration while wielding a staff. Now it's 120 concentration plus an additional 120 concentration.
All right, well, fair enough. I think that's fine then. I misinterpreted that. That's cool.
Then Lesser Smite Condition. In PvP, the damage of this trait has been reduced by 40%.
Amazing change. One of the best changes on this list so far. Really, really happy. I don't know whether you know this, Boots, but the Lesser Smite Condition was hitting way, way, way more than regular Smite Condition.
Yeah,
so it was, as the joke is, Greater Smite Condition. Ridiculous. So, thank you.
Yeah.
There you go. And honestly, the amount of times I've been killed or a really crucial packet of damage that has lost me, you know, a key engagement because I didn't dodge their heal skill. I mean, come on, man. So, yeah, really, really happy with that.
All right. And then we got Perfect Inscription. This is a cool one. I didn't know that this wasn't already happened already. I thought I tested it. This trait now applies its shared signet passive effect to the Guardian in addition to their allies.
Yeah, I'm just like you, man. I thought this was already happening. In fact, I'll tell you what, very recently, I was just making some videos showing off core support Guardian, where you can, because you've got the third line you can play with, you can go Signets and take the Signet Elite and then spread it out to a whole Zerg when you activate and stuff, and you know. Oh, I've got a phone call here, hold on. Know about that. I thought that when I was activating the Signet, it was spreading to Zergs.
I thought so too. Well, to yourself, yeah.
Yeah, so you basically, this is a bit like Herald when they have that Grandmaster trait that means that their facets linger after they've activated them. It's kind of like giving that to the Guardian with their Signet thingy here. There's a lot of cool synergies on that build that I didn't realize, like sharing the passive Signet on F1, giving your allies Condi damage because you pressed F1 and stuff. I didn't know about it until I played it. But yeah, you guys can check that out if you want. That's on my LP, some of the recent videos showing support and all. Right, okay, next
we got Radiant Fire, fix the bug that causes trait to occasionally fail. All right.
Okay.
And then finally, Righteous Instincts. This trait's critical chance bonus has been reduced from 50% to 25%.
Okay, I actually really like this because I like this for the video because we're clearly of very different minds here. See, to me, this is a brilliant change.
Yeah, I know, because you like nerfing Guardian. Good
No,
for you.
I don't like nerf. Why have you got that impression? No, it's not that. It's such an insane trait. I'll tell you another insane trait.
I know. It's really good. That's why I loved it so much for how long it's been in the game.
And there is a real sense in the community at the moment that I think is totally out of whack with reality. That competitive format core guard, is like some little baby in the corner that needs to be nurtured and needs to be cared for and all. It's very delicate and stuff. It's a strong, solid build, easily top 5. Maybe around there, right? It's a very, very strong build that crowds out like archetypes of other builds. I think it will be fine. Good core. I'll tell you what actually I feel has affected core guard just as much as this, if not maybe even a little more. It's the Lesser Smite Condition change, right? So anyway, this just basically changes the amulets now, makes them a little bit more vulnerable as they rightly should be, stops the ludicrous just raw number of stats that those builds have. I think it's fine.
All this is gonna do is gonna make me go from using this Righteous Instincts to going full Condi.
Oh, well, that's a totally different build then.
No, it's not. You just move the thing over for Firebrand.
Oh, you're talking about Firebrand stuff. Right. Well, yeah, anyway, so I like this change, basically. This is, in fact, all right, and I don't like this change because of what I'm about to say, but coincidentally, on one of my recent videos, I was proposing if I could make one buff and one nerf to each class, the nerf that I said for Guardian was this, at about this threshold as well, I think. So
When did you say this out loud somewhere?
Yeah, out loud. It's in a video. I literally said if I could make one nerf to Guardian, it would be this. And I think I even proposed going from 50 to 25.
Somebody was in your chat or something.
No, that is not it. See, I was reticent to say this because people are going to think that. That's not true whatsoever.
It's all you. You did it again.
That's not true whatsoever.
You ruined Guardian.
But it's. I like this. I really do. I think this is very, very, very good. That and the Smite Condition, brilliant.
Okay. All right.
And look, Condi gets a little something as well. You know, it's a great change.
Yeah, no, I'm happy about all the Condi changes for sure.
All right. I want to do
ahead.
Necro. I want to do Necro really badly.
Okay, do it.
Necro gets all this amazing stuff, right? Like when the Scepter trait came in that changed one of the skills. Boots, there is a new type of shroud coming to the game.
Oh.
This patch.
Oh?
Oh, yeah. It's called Harbinger Shroud. All right, so anyway, here we go. From the devs, as we continue to update the Necromancer, we're looking at each of its elite specializations and moving them more toward their expected roles. Scourge applies a bit too much instant corruption pressure in large world versus world settings by simply laying down shades. We've reworked Unending Corruption and renamed it the Herald of Sorrow to address this.
Ooh.
The reworked trait now acts more like a delayed version of Boon Corruption that also grants an area of effect barrier. Reaper has seen excessive loss of damage with the update on traits in the last patch. We'll be pushing some of its damage higher through skill updates in PvE, but we'll be mostly leaving it alone in competitive modes, as all the Necromancer specializations have a healthy representation in competitive modes. I agree pretty much with whatever they say. I'm not actually sure what they're talking about. Their damage, they had excessive loss of damage in the updates last patch, did they? I wasn't aware of that.
I don't know.
Are they talking about when stuff like the Spite proc can't crit anymore? Was that an excessive loss of damage in PvE? Is that what was going on? So let's get into it. First of all, there's a PvE only update to Nightfall. So this is Greatsword skill 4. It's the expanding black field of gunk that corrupts and cripples and stuff. Is actually one of the most boosted skills in the game, I think. For PvE, it's a little bit less worthwhile because obviously it doesn't really corrupt or anything too often. However, increase the damage by 50% in PvE. So I view this as a raid rotation oriented thing entirely.
Okay.
I think that's really what that's about. And I don't actually think that, you know, that's that major. I don't think Reaper's going way up on the benchmark lists as of this patch. But
well, I think the damage wasn't that huge to begin with.
Exactly, right. But it shores it up a little bit. I think they want it to feel a little bit more rewarding when you're in like a raid scenario. Or I mean, Fractals is already really good because there's AoE blind and stuff, but whatever. Desiccate fixed a bug with this skill in which it's the might gain applied in a larger radius than the listed value, removed an unlisted whirl finisher, reduced the cast time from 1 second to 3/4 of a second, increased its damage by 150%. The skill now grants a bonus 2% life force for each target it strikes. And so there we go. So that was one of the Scourge utilities that just wasn't really used that much. So, you know,
they made a lot of changes to that.
Yeah, and the life force in particular is a pretty nice element of it. I really like a lot of the Scourge. The Scourge and Mirage both have got like one very dead feeling utility, and they've done a lot for Desiccate on the Scourge side here, it feels like. Oppressive Collapse. So this is Torch 5. Delayed knockdown. Fun skill, except that it should have a line of sight check. I still stand by that. They haven't added one, but they fixed a bug that prevented the skill from granting might if you used it on a target that was in down state. Extremely minor thing, but things should do what you expect them to do, so it's a good patch. Enfeebling Blood, this is Dagger 5. That's Corrupt in an AoE, plus the weakness, plus, what is it, a bit of bleed, I think. I don't really use Dagger offhand very much anymore, but they increase the amount of bleed stacks that it applies from 2 to 3. Just to kind of balance those out. Obviously, a lot of the power on the Dagger offhand for the competitive modes is the Dagger 4, really, with the transfer and stuff. But for PvE and stuff, if you're on that Dagger offhand, a bit more damage as you're running around, I think, is kind of nice. I don't think that would have affected the trait then, right?
Probably not Lesser Enfeebling Blood. No, I don't think so.
So that's a Grandmaster Curses one, right? Where you do weakness on crit, and then when you go into Shroud,
like Enfeebling Shroud or something.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So anyway, you got that. That's a cool necro thing. So some Reaper shout changes, which I'm quite happy with because I feel like I've always felt like a lot of the Reaper shouts are kind of underwhelming, which is fine because the rest of it is so insanely powerful to me. But you are all weaklings. So this is
I like it.
Inflict weakness, gain might. That's about it, isn't it? And a bit of damage? I can't remember. Maybe there was some other function on it. They reduced the recharge time of this skill from 30 to 25 seconds and increased the flat damage it does by 40%. So
it wasn't very much damage.
Yeah, 40 looks high, but it's actually not that great. And same with the other one. Nothing can save you. This is the one that makes you unblockable. Reduce the recharge from 25 to 20. Increase the damage by 40.
Cool.
I do like the recharge drops, though, because as a Reaper, when you trait for Shrouds, if you're AoE hitting nothing can save you now, that's really long uptime on, like, you can get it back so quickly. 20 seconds would be reduced significantly if you hit AoE targets. You could be, but it's about you being outnumbered a lot and, how often you're outnumbered in PvE and everything's also blocking a lot is kind of limited, you know. Anyway.
Yeah, well, nothing can save you with the unblockable. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
I really like that skill. Serpent Siphon. So, again, back to Scourge. Fixed a bug that caused the skill to list an incorrect amount of barrier. So this is the one with the snakes, right?
Yeah.
So it was listing the wrong amount of barrier, but they also reduced its recharge time from 30 to 25 seconds. They also increased its damage. I mean, was that doing good flat damage? Again, this feels like a dead utility. Some people do play with Serpent Siphon. I see it on occasion.
It was not doing very much damage at all.
All right, so why 21%? Who knows? But there you go. So the cooldown drop is really the big thing. Next, Spectral Ring. The description and skill facts for this skill have been updated to indicate the amount of life force that is gained when fear is applied to a foe. So, they hadn't done that because the life force adding to it was more of a recent thing, right? And then they turned it into a ring. Cold Shoulder. So, increase the amount of bonus damage that this trait grants from 10% to 15% in PvE only. So, this is the Reaper Minor. That means when you're hitting something with chill, you do more damage.
Oh, nice 5% increase.
So it's
so
straight up 5% increase with the Nightfall thing on top. If people are running GS, that's your PvE. Really, the actual tangible aspects there. Unending Corruption. So, all right. So Unending Corruption. That's the Scourge Master trait that meant when you cast the shade on someone. As it landed, it corrupted. And all of the ones in the Master tier are themed of when you summon a shade, do a thing. Inflict burning, grant barrier, or corrupt. Now, that corrupt one was really important for the competitive modes, and we find a lot of people using, was responsible for a lot of the on-demand corrupt that Scourges have. So that's what they're talking about at the top, at the header, where they say they don't like that really, really front-loaded stuff. So instead, that's now changed to a really flavorful thing. That kind of still provides the same functionality, but is more counter-playable. All right, it's been renamed to Herald of Sorrow,
which is a great name.
Herald of Sorrow. Equipping this trait turns Desert Shroud into Harbinger Shroud. Now, Harbinger Shroud removes the pulsing effects of Desert Shroud, so it's totally changing your F5. Instead, it turns Desert Shroud into a single detonation after a 3-second delay. The trait, and that detonation, will deal damage, it will corrupt, and apply conditions in one strike while providing barrier to allies within the vicinity.
Oh, to all allies.
Yeah. So, well, and enemies, right? So, I mean, we're in a totally different ball game here now. The total amount of corrupt that you'll get as a Scourge now will change. I do want to point out at this point that a lot of very decent Scourges weren't even on Unending Corruption. They would run Sadistic Searing instead, which is burning when you summon a shade, and they might just continue to use that. But I really like the idea of Herald of Sorrow. Obviously, we don't know what the number on the damage is. We don't know what the conditions are. And so on. So, but what you got to understand, guys, is, I mean, this feels like a Grandmaster thing to me, really, because it's so major. The Sand Shroud, that's a lot of damage and a lot of torment over time, right? And Condi over time. They're shifting that all into a single packet now.
But after a 3-second delay.
Right. So there's going to be some really cool animation on this. An animation, remember, that won't just play on you, the Scourge, it will play on all your shades at the same time. I think this is going to be really fun, man. I think it will be, like, to see it and know to dodge it, you know, that...
And your friends know to get into it, because before, Desert Shroud didn't give barrier to your allies, it was only to yourself.
Wasn't it... I think you could, when you summoned it, right? And the F3...
No, I think the Desert Shroud only gave barrier to yourself.
Yeah, no, you're right, exactly, yeah, sorry, I was thinking about the on-demand summon thing because we were in that tier of traits. But yeah, so, you know, you get a little bit more support stuff there. You get a little bit more... And here's the thing that I'm really excited about as well. It does flat damage. So one build I really like the idea of is playing a Dust Lich build, which is a power-based Scourge that goes into Lich form and still can use Shroud and stuff. But it wasn't very good. However, now, maybe, if you take Harbinger Shroud, you can go Lich form and then use Sand Shroud, but it's the Harbinger Shroud, and maybe the big packet of damage while your Lich is good and stuff. Like, you know, you get extra. It could be good, man. I like it.
Could be good. I like this whole, because, you know, with the 7 packets, they'll know to like get away from it in 7 seconds.
Right.
But with this, with a 3-second detonation thing, they'll try to get away from it in 3 seconds. But the whole point could be you figuring out a way to either pull them into it right when it's about to happen, or
fear them away from yourself into a shroud range, or time your torch 5 correctly, or have other people CC and stuff. I really do. I think that this is exactly what Scourge needs to know. Animations and things you can react to and respond to and stuff. And, you know, the big raid markers cluttering the screen and stuff when, you know, the telegraphing on the classic Desert Shroud I don't really like very much. So I hope that this is really good, such that people use it, because I think that if we were in a world where everyone was on Harbinger Shroud instead of Desert Shroud, it's probably going to result in a more fun game.
So that's it. I think that because it's a 3-second delay, it's going to be very hard to successfully get it off in PvP World vs. Well, not World vs. World, but PvP. So I think that it's not going to be used that often for some people who don't feel confident being able to get it off. However, the fact that it gives a barrier to allies as well as you, that is going to definitely incentivize using it, even if they don't think they could use it to affect enemies.
There was no other well, hold on though, but it's competing with apply barrier when you use F1 as a trait. It's
F1, yeah.
So if you care about applying lots of barrier, you might still just want to take that trait instead and go for that synergy instead of the far less.
It's a long cooldown. Yeah.
So
I guess you're right.
So it's the versatility of it more than anything else, I think. But I love that duality to it, where allies will seek to move into shades when they see the animation. Enemies will seek to move away from them. It's all contingent on those final things: how much damage, how much corrupt, how many conditions in one strike.
Because it's got to be a good enough incentive to switch to it.
Because it's not just about the delay; it's about shuffling multiple packets into a single packet. Right? You're now vulnerable to Aegis and, you know, blinds and things, whereas when you were just spamming out lots of little hits, that was less true. Anyway, just the flavor of the whole thing, add a new shroud and stuff, it's brilliant. I love what they're doing with Necro and what we saw with Scepter. It's great. It's really, really cool. Very fun.
Very good. Okay, so I have a short one next. You want to do Warrior?
All right, let's do it.
Okay, it's short but sweet and interesting.
Yes, definitely. Now, I've seen very mixed reactions to the Warrior changes online, so let's see.
Oh, have you? Okay, let's find. All right, so here we go. We got Warrior. Banner skills have long been very passive in nature. Very true. Ooh. Today we are releasing some changes. Well, Tuesday we are releasing some changes to give them a bit more active gameplay while also reducing their granted attributes to give greater role flexibility in group settings. However, we do think that Warrior gives up a lot in order to use them, so we're increasing the boon stat gains when Warrior equip traits that modify barriers. As a larger change, we're also removing the bundle skills from barriers and changing the pickup action to now recharge the banner skill. Previously, the banner skills could be a trap for players, providing weaker skills, in a bundle that anyone could interact with. We considered enhancing. That's true. How many times have you been really annoyed by accidentally picking up a banner and having skills instead of like picking up an environmental weapon?
Well, there's two ways to do it. The other one is to affect the banner skills themselves, which is what they're about to say, right?
Yeah, we considered enhancing the banner skills, but we don't want banners to be alternate weapons to take away from players' normal weapons.
Interesting, because then that comes too close and confused with conjure weapon design and stuff. I rest in peace to. I remember one of my favorite dungeon metas ever. People forget how broken the game was when the highest DPS build for Ranger was to pick up a Warrior banner and auto attack with it. That was actually a thing for a while, like early 2013. And it's all gone now.
I know. So I might have to take a little break to figure out why my dog is barking.
Okay, no worries.
Banner skills have been reworked as follows.
The banner rework.
The banner rework of 2019. Banners no longer have skills and are instead destroyed when they are picked up. Rip my last season's elite speculations where we're going to be able to dual wield banners.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, I didn't even think of that, man. I didn't even think of that.
That was terrible anyway, so it doesn't matter. Then, banners can now only be picked up by the warrior who summoned them. Good, so that allies can't pick up banners and destroy them.
Okay.
reduced all banners stats gains from 170 to 100 at level 80.
So that's a significant nerf.
That is a significant nerf. How's it going to all equal out? We'll find out with the stuff later. Okay, then banners' durations have been reduced from 90 seconds to 60 seconds.
Okay.
Fine. All utility slot banner skills have had their recharge times reduced from 120 seconds to 80 seconds. Okay, so that's in line with the recharge the duration reduction.
So they're more you're interacting with banners much more regularly, basically.
Yes, it seems like that's the case. And then picking up a banner now reduces the recharge time of that banner by 60 seconds.
All right, do you want to read the last note at the bottom as well?
Yes. Okay, so Inspiring Battle Standard, the one that reduced the recharge, I think, of standards, but also gave you regeneration, and also increased the buff from 170 to 210 because it's 50% extra or something.
Now, was that buff only on you?
That was only on you, I think.
Right.
Was 50% of 170 85? 85 plus 170. Oh, okay, so it was actually a little bit more. It was 235, I think, to you.
Okay.
Or 255? Yeah, 255. Interesting.
Well, so what does the note say, though?
Right, sorry. Okay, so Inspiring Battle Standard, this trait has been renamed Doubled Standards.
This is no longer an inspirational aspect of the game, so it's...
No, it's not. So they're going with the... Anyway, it no longer causes banners to apply regeneration, and instead causes the warrior to gain 5 seconds of swiftness when summoning or picking up a banner. Additionally, the banner effect improvements that are gained when this trait is equipped have been increased from 50% to 100%.
What do you think about the more, I think, interesting topic, which is the functionality shifts and how we play with banners now? Do you think this is all positive?
Well, does it really... it doesn't functionally change much on how we used to play with banners, because like we tried not to pick them up and use them, right? You pick them up only to move them if you need to.
Well, I think it smooths everything out, right? No more accidental picking up from allies, and you as the warrior lugging banners around, so to say, it doesn't feel the same anymore. You just pick up your banner, it evaporates, and you get to use your weapon skills for mobility and
as
stuff.
long as it's been out for 20 seconds, it won't be on cooldown.
Turn into your Choya Pinata, roll ahead. You don't have to worry about actually holding it,
Yeah.
What do you think about the loss of the skills? I know, obviously, that they didn't do much damage, but no longer give allies swiftness. I quite like that little thing of pick up a banner, press the skill 3, press the skill 4 to charge. I kind of like those little bit, I think that's little bits of flavor. I like that little bit too, yeah. I expect that the change from regeneration to giving you swiftness was trying to counteract the loss of mobility, even though Warrior has a lot of mobility. Loss of mobility if you were depending on your banners for mobility. Right. But it's only you swiftness and not your ally swiftness, and so I don't know. It's interesting. I think that probably banners didn't need to exist as they existed, and this is a fine change. But I don't know. It'll have to all shake out. I like the idea. If they had gone with an art pass on this, it doubled standards. It's literally buffing the efficacy, right, by 100. It'd be cool if, art-wise, the banners looked like double now, or it put 2 of them down. Then you'd have to press F twice to pick them up, and it could be clunky or whatever. But I like that idea, that maybe that idea kind of fed the whole thing.
Yeah.
More visual noise, I guess, is what I'm suggesting there, which is probably bad. But yeah, it's a really focused update. There is another banner change, though, so Battle Standard.
Oh, yeah, this one's huge. I like this one, actually. Battle Standard. Resync the time at which a banner appears to properly line up with the effect. Okay. When planted on the ground, this banner now deals damage to foes within a radius of 180. So not a huge radius, but a radius nonetheless. Foes who are in down state are now finished when damaged by Battle Standard. Yeah, that's
crazy,
right.
Man.
It's a stomp now.
Very
it's an
cool.
AoE stomp. Oh yeah, sorry. The skill's targeting reticle will now display the radius for the effects that finish foes who are in a down state and the effects that revive allies. So you'll have a double reticle when you're summoning the skill.
Yeah, how cool is this, man? It's amazing. Okay, I actually suggested on the last Elite Speculation a Jade Wins that stomps people, if you remember. It feels a lot like that. I think this is brilliant. I really like the idea of people running battle standard. They synced the animation as well, which is really important. I could just imagine really dangerous scenarios in World versus World or PvP crucial team fights where like you've got a couple of allies down, they've got a couple of their guys down. You throw that battle standard in. It doesn't matter who's tagged what or what's going on. Just boom, your team's all up on their feet. Their team's all stomped out straight away. Move. It's almost like it doesn't need, to an extent, it's almost like it doesn't need the revive effect, because by being a stomp, it is a rally trigger, you know, in a way. I mean, true. It's nice that it has both, obviously. I think this is really cool. And also, this is just like with the Harbinger Shroud. It does damage, but what is the damage, right? I also wonder, Impact Strike, obviously, if the impact strike hits someone who's alive, but the power of the impact strike would kill them, it will trigger the finish, right? That's a thing with impact strike. I wonder whether that's a thing for battle standard too. So if I kill someone with the battle standard summon, does it auto finish them at that point, or does it leave them in down?
I don't know. It depends how much damage it does, I guess. If it's like 1 damage, that would be very unlikely.
I hope it's better. Like, this is going to remind me a lot of killing someone by casting a fiery greatsword on them as they run away, right, at 1200 range. Like, it's a super, really thrilling, fun thing to be able to do. I like the idea that warriors were going to... And the best thing about this is about a buff to battle standard, something I've been advocating for a while, because it is an indirect nerf to the incident rate of rampage without having to touch rampage and trigger people to be upset or whatever. If battle standard looks more lucrative, you know, you split some of the rampage users away to battle standard, create a more diverse game where, you know, so some things aren't necessarily broken. It's just really frustrating that when you interact with them too much, and you could say that's because of cooldowns and stuff, but you can diversify through these means as well. So I really, really like it. And also they did the Spellbreaker elite.
Yeah, Winds of Disenchantment. And this is the final thing. This skill is now a channeled skill, and it follows the warrior. Its pulse time is reduced from 1 second to 0.5 seconds, with the duration remaining at 5 seconds. So extra pulses, double the pulses, and breaking the channel will destroy the spell. The casting time is reduced to 0.5 seconds. So yeah, this is now not a, you know, place it and do whatever you want afterwards. This is your warrior becomes the Winds of Disenchantment. Your role is now, while you're doing Winds of Disenchantment, is to be the guy who does Winds of Disenchantment.
So so we saw with a recent patch, they hit the duration and stuff, right, of Winds, and they basically halved what it can potentially do in total, if not more, right? Now we see that they're stacking its power back in. They're making it really strong again, but it's contingent on a cast time. So I really like this, particularly for the World versus World perspective, where, you know, Winds is such a defining thing, because you can focus CC and fire on the Winds guy.
Doing it.
And meanwhile, the allies of the Winds guy, the Firebrands, would be spamming their mantras to keep the elite going. Like, I love the idea of the interaction of elites and big cooldowns like that, you know? Like,
yeah.
I mean, maybe giving him stabs a bad idea because he turns into fear bait on Corrupt, but that's such a cool idea, you know? I think it might still be a bit worrying. I think it was an over-nerf, particularly for the 5-man competitive format. We don't really see anyone running Winds anymore, which is a bit of a shame. It had a bit of a look in before.
Yeah, so if it had been like, well, you can't say for this particular thing that it's for PvP only, because it's a complete change to the skill itself.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
I mean, I wonder whether we'll see it in PvP, because to lock out of anything else, you're really low value if all you're doing is just channeling this, right? Potentially. You know, but still, I really, really like the idea that they're looking at these elites, and I think it's a healthier version of Winds. If only that had been like that when Path of Fire came out.
It's interesting. It's very interesting. I want to see how it works.
You're going to feel like a proper spellcaster doing that as well. As a warrior, that's a very spelly kind of thing. I don't know, in terms of just interactions and stuff. There you have it. Okay, cool. So I'm going to move on to, unless there's something else you want to say on warrior.
No, that's it.
All right, let's move on to Ranger. Ranger is the next one. And what you guys might notice coming up, especially as we go through Ranger here, is a big part of this patch is they're taking classifications of utilities, like entire buckets of skills, and retooling them and reworking them. So we just saw banners with the warrior. For Ranger, we get one. It's spirits. It's a big spirit rework. And there's going to be another full utility skill rework when we get to engineer later as well. So, the Spirit rework. And they did a lot more. There's a lot to say on Ranger. I'll try and be briefish about it. Right, here we go. So, in our last balance update, we made a few changes to Nature's Vengeance to tweak the boons provided by each spirit. Now, you remember they did a lot of spirit changes, but it didn't really change anything on the face of the game as far as I could tell, right? In this update, we've applied major changes to the spirits themselves. Active spirit skills are generally not usable due to the high cost of sacrificing the spirit and the localized effect that the sacrifice causes. Right, so you don't really like activating your frost spirit because you deny everyone the buff kind of thing. We are changing these active skills to teleport the spirit to the player's location before the spirit uses their skill. Additionally, they don't even sacrifice themselves. In exchange, spirits no longer have preset time durations for how long they can stay alive, and instead, they lose health as they passively enhance allies. This is intended to provide a more dynamic gameplay experience than their current cast on recharge functionality. Of course, spirits can still be used in this manner, but proper use of the ranger's healing skills and more powerful active skills to reposition and attack with the spirits will yield stronger results. What's your takeaway there, Boots, straight away? Because I got a lot of understand that.
That's interesting. I mean, yeah, I like it.
So they want Ranger to like use their own like heals, like as druids, or like, you know,
to try to heal their
to
spirits,
keep their spirits
keep
up.
them alive.
Exactly.
But the fact that they still only have a limited amount of time they can stay alive fixed anyway.
No, they don't. They said they removed that. We're removing that element. It's all about just their health.
They no longer have preset timer durations.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, that's great. That reminds me of old Minion Man.
Exactly. There we go. Good. So what I'm seeing here, this is what Minions should be like. This was the more fun, more interactive, more dynamic Minion gameplay for Necros back in the day. And so I wonder if this is a testing ground that they'll make the right call and actually do this for Minions as well. In a way, I mean,
is it the right call though for Minions? I don't know.
The thing is with Minions that you can, some of the Minion summon things can keep scaling, right? But this is like, you know, a spirit is a spirit. There'll only ever be so many. I don't particularly relish the idea of spirits becoming so strong. We see a lot of them in the competitive modes, but for PvE and stuff, the ability to be able to reposition them now as well, I kind of like it, man. I think that this is a really good idea for them. It's quite.
I agree.
Again, my wish always for nature rituals was kind of for them to be a lot more like Guild Wars 1s, which is the reverse of this. They're very immobile, but massive ranges. And here we see that they're kind of going, you know, they're more mobile now and stuff. But I think it's cool. So, they say all of that about the spirits. So I'll just jump into that section of the ranger
I just
changes.
make one point, though. It says, so using the active skills teleports the spirit to the player's location before the spirit uses their skill. So that's good because obviously you want the spirit to
You'll be
use
where the
its
action
skill
is.
on you.
Yeah.
However, it's counterintuitive a little bit because you want spirits to be able to stay alive, and if you're teleporting the spirit to you and you're in battle, it's gonna die pretty fast, pretty much probably.
Well, yeah, so that's where I think that's a fun interaction because you want to activate the spirit and get it closer to be in range, but not directly into where AoEs are or AoEs will be soon. And
I
stuff.
feel like it would be more interesting maybe if the active skill when you press it is a ground targeted thing and you could put it wherever you want.
I think that's less interesting. That's less interactive. Well, no,
why is that?
It's more control for you to the extent that there's no intrigue in getting it right. Giving people more power and more control doesn't mean better gameplay. Being more able to manipulate the scenario does not mean that the resulting gameplay is going to be more fun. It just
fine, but I think it would be more fun. This one in particular.
So let's look at what they actually did. The spirits have been reworked as follow. When a spirit pulses its passive effect, it loses health equal to a percentage of its maximum health. It's going to be 7.5% health for the non-elite spirits and 3% for the elite ones. The effect radius of a spirit's active has been reduced from 1,000 to 600. So, again, you have to be precise about where you teleport it to. There's a game in that because they're not going to, you know, the actives don't have these really, really nice, comfortable ranges anymore. Spirits now die automatically if the ranger moves away from the spirit beyond 5,000. Spirits also die automatically if the ranger transitions between water travel and land travel. I like the idea of being able to deposit spirits to maybe help an engagement you won't be at later and then teleport them. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting thought. But yeah, they die if you go between water and land. And finally, they fixed a bug that caused the underwater spirits to use their unique skill when killed, which was the old functionality, right, of one of the traits or whatever.
Yeah.
They're dolphins when underwater too, aren't they? It's kind of nice.
I think so. Yeah, it's cute.
Okay, so I'm just going to dig through the whole list of what the actives do, okay? Spirit actives. These skills no longer sacrifice the spirit, instead cause them to teleport to the ranger's location before the spirit uses their active skill. These have quarter of a second cast time. The recharge time for these skills remains at 20. The water spirit active, Aqua Surge, this no longer heals the spirit that casts it. So if you want to sustain the water spirit's health, you have to do it via other means. By the way, I just want to make a point on the healing the spirits thing. This brings 10 target heal relevance into light, even at 5-man formats, because you might want to heal the spirit. You might want to overheal. Spirit of Nature. This spirit, so this is the elite, no longer benefits from its own pulsing heal, but I guess the other spirits will. So the elite spirit sustains the other spirits is a weird, cool, fun thing.
That's nice, yeah.
Reduce the healing per second that it grants to 101 plus 3.5% of your healing power. And some of these changes, I guess, are preemptive changes based on the new format that they anticipate would be too strong too quickly, I guess. The active on the elite. Reduce the recharge from 120 to just 40 seconds. So you can spam the elite way more. Reduce the radius of the revive pulse and condition cleansing effect from 600 to 240. Each ally revived by this spirit causes the spirit to lose 30% of its maximum health, but it can still revive up to 5 allies. Reduce the number of conditions that are removed from 5 to 3. Boots, this is an AoE team res at 40-second cooldown.
And that's on top of a ranger already having search and rescue.
That you teleport to yourself.
Yeah.
So you charge in, you teleport a spirit that was 5,000 range away from you. So, okay, there's a lot to say. This could be super OP, obviously.
It is super OP.
No. If the cast time on the active for the spirit is right, there's time to CC it and counterplay, and that's very fun. CCing the actives of the rate is very fun. Also, I really like, just think about the interactions at play here. If it was a strong thing to do as a ranger to hide a nature spirit somewhere, then quickly teleport it in. You have, as you're roaming around maps and looking, you'll find these spirits and you can like DPS the spirit, kind of like what we experienced with flesh worms, but much more urgency to it. Quite often you just think, flesh worm, whatever.
It says for elite spirits too, it's only 3% reduction. The spirit pulses this passive effect 3% for the elite spirit. Does it pulse every second or is it every 3 seconds?
I don't know. That's not the main part of it to me. The res part is...
Well, I'm just trying to say that you could leave it alone and not have to heal it, possibly for 100 seconds if it only pulses every 3 seconds.
Right. So this is this idea of like being able to drop them in interesting places and seek them out, and I think it's a really fun gameplay interaction if the casting time on the summon on the revive is right. All right, I don't actually mind the 40 seconds because CC is so abundant. Okay. I don't mind that as long as the casting time is right. You gotta look at what...
So it's only every 1 second, by the way, the Spirit of Nature. So yeah, it's only up every for 33 seconds if you don't heal it.
Okay, so the other thing as well, and that might be a good balancing factor. The other thing is you got to consider the other elites that it's jostling with. And again, you're going to reduce the rampages as one. You're going to reduce the one wolf pack. We'll get to that later. You're going to reduce... not everyone really runs entangling routes. But hey, I like this, man. I do. I'm inherently optimistic about it. You might find me in a couple of weeks loathing it, and it's like the worst, most OP thing, but it comes down to how they implement it. The core structure of the gameplay, though, I love. All right, anyway, I'm sorry. I spoke way too long about that. Next, you got Storm Spirit. Reduce the duration of vulnerability that it applies from 10 to 6. The active, Call Lightning. This is actually pretty substantial as a skill. Reduce the duration of the days from 3 to 1 second. I think that's very healthy and good. Sun Spirit, Solar Flare, reduce the duration of the blindness from 8 to 5. Reduce the duration of burning from 3 stacks of 5 seconds to 2 stacks for 4. So that's a significant burn drop. Reduce the effect size to more closely match its range. So there you go. So that's the spirits. I wish the devs had put a bit of a break in the page there so you could see. Any final thoughts on it?
I have a question about this.
Okay.
So, nature's renewal for the Spirit of Nature.
Yeah.
That teleports to you.
Yeah.
Can you, when you're about to die,
That used to be the old thing, so yes, I'm sure you can. You can save yourself by casting at the right time. The spirit teleports onto your body, and the target has to CC it, otherwise you res yourself. Yes, that was the old interaction.
That's going to be great.
Yeah.
And it's just better now because it teleports to you. You don't have to be near it.
Yeah. But, I mean, it comes at a cost of some pretty major stuff from the other elites and things. I don't know. Again, don't judge it in isolation, I think, to people. Some people were very cynical of it, but just think about what could be fun in terms of what things you have to react to and think about as you're playing the game. Also, lastly, there is the GM trait for spirits as well. Nature's Vengeance. This trait now reduces the passive health sacrifice from spirits by 33%. Additionally, the boons that are granted by your spirits are now applied when the spirit's active skill is used, instead of just being applied upon a set interval. So, wait, that's a little bit weirdly worded. I don't know whether that means you lose the passive entirely and it's now only on the active, or whether it means in additional to the passive when you activate, they also do it. I don't know. But I'm not sure. Oh, and then they have a little thing here as well. The boon durations have been increased. Spirit of Nature now grants... Wait. Scrap everything we just said. If you take the Grandmaster trait, the Spirit of Nature now grants 3 seconds of stability.
Interesting.
What? Okay, so if when you use the active, it's got it
used to be 1 second of stability.
If it's got stability for its own cast and stuff, that's insanely obnoxious. That's ridiculous. If it can, if it can cover itself
without any boon duration, it's permanent stability.
That's really, really well. But this might just be related to the trait. It might be when you take the trait.
Oh, it is.
When you take the trait, you no longer get any stab, but when it activates, it gives itself stab for its res. I think that's way too strong.
Nature's Vengeance. It's talking about Nature's Vengeance.
That's way too strong, I think, giving it stab, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not an
1.5
expert
seconds,
on Ranger.
so you at least need to...
The thing is, I'm not an expert on Ranger with the specialization lines and whether it's really difficult to pick up Nature's Vengeance and still be a good build. If it's a super accessible trait, then yeah. So there's some factors in this I'm not 100% on. Anyway, Water Spirit, Regeneration. Frost Spirit is 3 stacks of Might. Stone Spirit is 3 stacks of Protection. Storm is 5 seconds of Fury. And Sun is 3 of Vigor. Spirits is one thing. There's also the Soul Beast utility bucket stances. Now, these have had significant changes. Nerfs, rightly so. So let me just say the main thing here is, as a side note, one of the reasons Boon Beast is pretty goddamn good is because it scales very well when you take it to a team fight. You can just basically spam all the stances on your allies and do incredible stuff at the team fight as a result of that. So lots of things to affect stances. Bear stance, the duration has been split and increased from 4 seconds to 5 in PvP. So they actually buffed Bear, but Doliac, it's been split and it's gone from 6 to 5 in PvP. One Wolf Pack has gone from 8 to 6 in PvP. So that's the elite. Drops a substantial amount there, and it will go further as well in a second. The casting time of the skits is now has now been reduced.
Oh, okay.
So it lasts less long, but it's easier to cast. But then the trait, Leader of the Pack, the increased duration that this trait grants the Ranger has been split between game modes and reduced from 150% to 120 in PvP only. Okay.
Oh, so yeah, really nerf for the one Wolf Pack at least.
So going down on the durations there. So that's what they did with the stances, and you know, it's kind of like saying, hey, maybe drop a stance, pick up a spirit. It's the implicit.
Fair enough.
Then we get into other Ranger stuff. One of the changes I really like, actually, to do with soften the fall. Okay, which is kind of muddy terrain. So soften the fall. This is the when you cast your heal, drop a muddy terrain thing.
Yep.
Which, if you remember, that got added as just a part of a larger update that just tried to make the fall damage traits a bit more interesting and probably wasn't looked at carefully enough from the devs, even though it's very, very strong. So soften the fall, reduce the duration of the immobilization that it applies from 3 to just 1 second. They reduced the cripple from 3 to 2. And they added a tooltip that shows the interval between pulses. So they nerfed it. And this needed a nerf. This was one of my suggestions to nerf. But I actually think that it was the number of pulses I would have rather see change on this, or maybe the frequency of the pulses or something. But yeah, so they've gone with the Condi duration. The Condis will still hit you, but then they'll leave a bit quicker. I mean, getting in a mode while you're trying to climb up to a kite spot or something is really frustrating, and that will be just as frustrating at 1 second than it was at 3, but there you have it. Then also, Muddy Terrain itself, they fixed the tooltip about the pulses, which we saw. So Ambidexterity, this was about Condi damage on your offhands, right? Torch and Dagger. There is no longer split between game modes, and it uses its highest stat value in all modes. And that's fine, because Condi Ranger variants weren't very good in the competitive modes, so that's fine. Bonfire increased the duration of burning that applies from 2 to 2.5. Again, good change, I think, because we don't see Condi Ranger variants represented very well at the moment. Poison Master fixed a bug that caused this trait to fail if the Ranger was in down state. Fixed a bug that prevented the effect applied by this trait from being removed when the Ranger's pet's attack failed to hit. So just housekeeping. And there you go. Sorry, that was the last one. And then we get back into the spirits. They ordered this really weirdly with the spirits. It's like spirits.
Yeah, it's like in the middle of the things, more spirits. So, yeah, Bonfire from 2 to 2.5 seconds. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Ooh, my little guy is seeking attention.
Oh, do you want to give him a pet?
I've been trying to. But he's been like...
It's good that he knows we're doing Ranger, and he's the pet, right? So he needs the attention. He's saying, why wasn't there any Beast Mastery changes, ArenaNet? What's going on? That's what's going on there. But there you have it, guys. Ranger, the Nature's Renewal, definitely something to look at. I think one of the more substantial things to come from this. So, you're up next, Boots. What do you want to do?
I'm going to throw this, and hopefully he fetches it. Oh, go get it. Oh, no, he caught it out of there. Next, we've got Teef.
Teef. Are you Teef from the EU now, saying Teef?
That's right, Teef.
Okay, lovely.
We've been looking at ways to improve the pistol main hand and dagger offhand for builds for thieves. We wanted to give the weapon... No, okay, forget it. We wanted to give the weapon... I was wondering
how long before you gave up on that, because it's quite a paragraph.
Yeah, give the weapon a little more lethality. So, pistol main hand, dagger offhand is what they want to help out.
Sweet, I like that. It's crap at the moment. Well, not crap. It's underrepresented.
We wanted to give the weapon pair a little more lethality without improving other weapon sets or removing current utility. So we decided to go with the mechanic we used for Toe the Line during the Underwater update. Right. This allows Shadow Strike to flip over to Repeater for a period of time. Additionally, the team has adjusted Unhindered Combatant so that Exhaustion scales with the severity of the condition that was removed. Finally, we're reducing the duration of stealth for Silent Scope in competitive modes so that it is more of a brief respite in combat rather than a stealth upkeep trait.
Right. There's like 3 big things here. First of all, so Toe Line, it's Spear on Thief. Throw a toe line that pulls enemies towards you, gains stealth and access to Hooked Spear if it hits. Alright, and then Hooked Spear was a flip over. So you can throw it out and it flips over, right? So they're saying that if you use the dual attack on PD now, it flips over to Repeater.
To Repeater, which is, I think, that skill that if you only have a pistol equipped and nothing in your offhand.
Yes! Yes! Yeah. I mean, I'm so happy with this, dude. Those are...
Because that never gets used, right?
I know. I love those skills. Twisting Fangs was like epic in Guild Wars 1, and that's like the dagger one. I'm so proud of ArenaNet for looking back at those skills for inspiration.
So, yeah, is there ever going to be a point of time where you want to use Shadow Strike twice in a row? And not have Repeater?
Well, no, the thing is, that skill TPs you away from them, right?
TPs you away from them, yeah.
So, it's a beautiful thing that they've done, because you TP away, and then it's like you're a pistol thief for a second. Now. You can use Repeater, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like it.
So this one works. But there are a few skills that they can't do that with.
Can I just say, just for what it's worth, Repeater, all of those skills, as they are currently balanced, are awful. Repeater's like a massive initiative cost. With, as far as I remember, I've got the wiki page up here for everyone to see. Not good damage. Like, some of the other ones are truly abysmal. Twisting Fangs is actually probably one of the worst skills in the game. Like, it roots you in place. It's a slow, clunky animation that does, like, no damage on it. Like, so I hope that Repeater has had some tweaks as well as of this balance patch.
Maybe it doesn't have like it has a reduction in cost, maybe, because it's not powerful at all.
Yeah. We'll get to that in the specific thing, I guess, as they talk about it.
Starting off, we got Sneak Attack, which I think is the pistol.
Yeah, ambush. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, pistol dagger. Yeah.
Pistol Dagger, but this is the pistol sneak attack. So increase the duration of bleeding that's applied by the skill from 4 seconds to 6 seconds. So it would be 5 stacks of bleeding for 6 seconds.
Nice. And this is
Nice
like a
buff.
Condi loaded playstyle, so that's good.
I wonder if that transfers over to the Daredevil version of it.
What, Malicious? Oh yeah, Malicious sneak attack. Right. I didn't think about that. I don't think I've ever used Malicious sneak attack in my life.
Oh, well, you're missing out. It's so good.
Which is kind of stupid, actually, because oh no, I must have used it a ton. Never mind, I'm lying. I played PP Deadeye loads. I actually think that's one of the strongest PvE builds. Yeah, anyway, go ahead, sorry.
Okay, next we got Shadow Strike. So that's the thing we were talking about. This skill now grants access to Repeater for 4 seconds upon lasting a successful melee hit.
So you go in, you torment them, you port away, and now you get Repeater.
So, and I think it really depends on how expensive Repeater is, because if they get back to you before 4 seconds happens, and you don't want to use Repeater on them, you're stuck in Repeater for 4 seconds before being able to get away again.
Yeah, that's a good point. Definitely. Like
so
you can't go Shadow Strike, Steel, Shadow Strike anymore to go Torment, Confusion, Torment kind of thing.
Yeah, which is kind of annoying, actually. But then we got Repeater for builds that use a pistol in their main hand and with no offhand weapon. The damage of the skill has been increased by 20%, so that's okay. And striking a foe with the skill now applies 4 seconds of bleeding per hit. So again, doing that Condi damage stuff.
Oh, okay. All right. That's important. So it's actually Condi. Because I was thinking that as well. I was thinking, well, it's just power damage and you want Condi. That's so weird, man. They specifically buffed the main hand only version. I adore that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Those skills are on the table for balancing. That's what that means.
So,
they're on the table. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, this makes me.
It's heavy initiative, man. It's heavy initiative. I don't know.
I hope they reduce the initiative, because otherwise it does mean you'll be stuck in a skill that you might not want to use for 4 seconds instead of Shadow Strike.
Definitely.
Then we got Shadow Step. The window to use Shadow Return after using the skill has been increased from 10 seconds to 15 seconds. That's always nice.
Oh, wow. I actually think that's pretty substantial.
Yeah, that's very nice.
That is a buff to a best in slot. Shadow Step is arguably one of the best utilities in the entire game.
Yeah.
And they've just made it more versatile there.
Yeah, it's nice.
Easy decaps.
And a tooltip has been added to show the window's duration. Good. Okay.
Okay.
Then Silent Scope. This is the one that they said they nerfed. The duration of stealth that this trait grants has been reduced from 3 seconds to 1 second in PvP and World vs. World.
I think that's really important. Deadeye, stealth on dodge, gave them so much control over fights. 1v1s and small scale engagement. I think this really solidifies that as, look, this is to get you your malicious burst, right? This is what it's all about. And little more than that. It's not about sustaining stealth with it. So, yeah, it's okay. I'm all right. I'm on board with that.
Okay, we are go. Puppy on lap, sniffing at keyboard.
Beautiful.
Unhindered Combatant. So this is the one with the Exhaustion. The duration of Exhaustion that this trait applies when dodging is now only 2 seconds instead of 4 seconds if crippled is present, 3 seconds if chilled is present, and 4 seconds if immobilized is present. And remember from before, Exhaustion stacks up to 3 times.
Yep.
And Exhaustion will now be applied when the dodge is initiated. So this is interesting. Now, my question is, I assume that it's not going to do this, but if you have chilled, crippled, and immobilized, do they stack right away?
Oh, that's a really good point there. I hadn't thought of that. That would be devastating if that is actually
9 seconds of unhindered of
to get the
right
full
away.
Cleanse. That would be crazy.
I don't think that's gonna happen. I think it just means like if any of them maybe
if
it gets
present,
maxed out.
Yeah, you go up. So I actually I like the idea here with the general change above, in that, you know, it's a little bit more dynamic. It's less of a like weird like hacky binary thing. It's actually a functioning part of the game, you know, in that there are varying scales at which Exhaustion will operate, rather than just a big lump sum without insight to the context of how you got it. Yeah.
So I was worried about, because I mean that's obviously a fantastic trait originally for Daredevils. Everybody used it.
Yeah,
everybody
dash.
still uses it, because even with the Exhaustion, people have been telling me it's not that big of an impact, even though it's an impact.
No, people definitely still run dash. Dash never really fully went anywhere.
Yeah, and then finally, lead attacks fixed a bug with this trait that allowed players to enter combat with more stacks of damage effect than intended.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I don't know how relevant that bug was. Obviously, the lead attacks nerf, the thing where they're like, oh no, we don't.
It was a big deal.
We don't want you getting this out of combat, right? That all leads back to that change. And if people ended up not being very upset with the out of combat thing because this bug exists and it was really accessible, then well, we've got some, now the full force of that prior out of combat patch will be levied upon us. But I don't know whether it was actually that relevant of a bug.
Yeah.
Cool, so that's Thief. I'll move on to Engineer, I guess, where we will see another selection of utility skill change. How's that sound? Right, with this update, we're reworking one of the less reliable skill sets, Gyros. While potent, their difficulty to use and to optimize has brought them to a spot where they're not really desirable outside of a few niche situations. As a part of this rework, Gyros are being reclassified as wells. And the Scrapper's particular version of them is mobile and point blank to ensure the Scrapper's melee-oriented playstyle. So, first of all, what I would say is Gyros as wells seems really weird to me. Well doesn't mean AoE. Well means stationary AoE to me. It's a bit odd, but fine. All right, so...
but that just means it interacts with some of those runes, like the one that whenever you cast a well, you gain quickness.
Yeah, so you do get that synergy now, and that's one of the main things people have been talking about with this, the idea of heavy quickness-operated Scrappers. I mean, it's a cool idea. So there's actually a lot that's gone into this. First of all, let's break into it. The Gyro class of skills been reworked, changed to wells. Gyros are no longer targetable. They're not actually like targetable minions that run around with you anymore. Instead, they hover over the engineer to grant their effects. I'm really curious to see what this animation is like. Obviously,
well, it's probably going to be a lot like the
function
gyro.
Yeah, the function gyro. Yeah, but that's like really small and over your shoulder. These are like full-on utilities. I like the idea that they're really quite big and they like orbit above us like UFOs or something. I really like that idea. And the way you read their animations is a bit like how you read Signet Tales. Anyway, so very, very different. Flame Blast. So, well, hold on. Let's stay with the gyros. They're doing such a weird ordering here. All right, Blast Gyro Tag. This skill's been reworked and renamed Blast Gyro. The gyro now creates a fire field that follows the engineer while it pulses might to nearby allies every second during its countdown to a significant explosion.
Nice.
So this,
line that up maybe with. Oh wait, you can't. Never mind.
What I'm wondering about this is combining this with Toss Elixir S or indeed the Sneak Gyro, and you just have this ticking time bomb rolling down. They don't see it, and then you burst out of stealth with the explosion. Which could be really gimmicky and annoying and bad, in my opinion, but we'll see.
Could be.
You got the Medic Gyro. Was reworked. The gyro now creates a water field that follows the engineer while it pulses heals to the player and nearby allies every second. So you'll remember.
How long is the water field?
You remember the F1 actually was that before. So do you get to like double that kind of thing now?
Well, I mean,
we don't know how long they follow. We don't know.
Yeah, because the Medic Gyro lasted quite a while.
Yeah.
So hold on. If this lasts the same amount of time as it used to last, and is a water field throughout the entire duration, you know how many blasts an NG gets?
Yeah.
This is going to be ridiculous if that's the case.
The thing is, what frustrates me about that is I find it so hard to be excited, because yes, Medic, obviously that gyro should be used in the game, but it's competing with Medkit, and I really want Medkit to be the thing that I'm using it, so I don't know. But hey, we'll see. It looks good. Bulwark.
What happens with the tool? What happens with the tool?
They haven't said here. They haven't said here.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting.
That's already a water field.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what. Yeah. Exactly. So, Bulwark Gyro. It's been reworked. The gyro now creates a lightning field that follows the engineer while granting them barrier every second. Now that's really important. People running with sanctuary runes, you get a minor trait that means barrier is more effective, and you get benefits for having barrier. Barrier was the thing they were trying to theme scrap around post Path of Fire, and it redirects some damage from nearby allies to the NG. So, before, the Bulwark was applying Watchful Eye, which was just flat reduced damage, and threw it on the Scrapper, on the Gyro. But now the Gyro can't be DPS'd, so it goes to the Engineer instead. So, it's going to be a weird thing where, basically, if you make yourself tanky enough, you can actually meaningfully divert damage and resustain. But yeah. Then you got the Purge Gyro. This is the cleanse one, obviously. The Gyro now creates a light field, and blasting in light fields and stuff is Condi Cleanse. A light field that follows the engineer while removing conditions from the player and nearby allies. And then Shredder Gyro. The Gyro now follows the engineer, performing whirl finishes that inflict damage on nearby enemies every second.
I like that.
So
because I always wanted to use the Shredder Gyro, but I never found a really good reason to do it. I wanted to do it in like a whirl finisher burn build, but now you might be able to.
You can combo the gyros together.
Shredder.
Or I was more excited in the lightning field gyro. Bulwark combined with Shredder is just spamming dazes out around you.
Is that dazes or is that vulnerability?
Oh no, yeah, you're right. It's vuln.
Yeah.
That would have been particularly nuts because a daze would have equaled stab if you take another scrapper trait, and could have been really funny.
That's right.
All right,
would have been crazy.
And then finally the sneak gyro has been reworked. The gyro now creates a smoke field that follows the engineer while it grants stealth to the player and nearby allies. So it's still essentially the same kind of thing. But here's a really important distinction. It
stays with you.
It used to be. Sneak Gyro was mental in that it was like so much stealth for so long for so many people, but it was kind of balanced by the fact you could see the gyro itself. So you knew that enemies were around, you just didn't know how many. You know, in Wild vs. Wild you see a gyro, that could equal a Zerg of 5 people or just one guy out on his own. But you can't see the gyro anymore, right? Because it's not... Or maybe you can still see the gyro, but it's not targetable and damageable.
So hold on, you can see, maybe you can still see the gyro, but even if you can't, it says the gyro now creates a smoke field that follows the engineer, so you'll probably be able to see the smoke field.
I guess, right, yeah. So it'll probably be, it's going to be weird to be able to see it, but not DPS it or whatever. You'll see the smoke moving around the map ominously.
But if you see the smoke moving around the map, that's pretty
It's pretty much the same effect.
The player's going to be right in the middle of it.
I agree, but, you know, being able to snipe out the gyro and just remove the stealth altogether... It's going to be cool. I'm just curious about the animation. I'm not an advocate or a dissenter on this. I'm just curious about the animation. I want to see it because it's a slight change.
I'm very confused about the reason for the smoke field, frankly.
Well, because it's just more stealth in it. People can blast while they're standing next to it and just go more stuff.
I guess so. Okay. All right.
Okay. So then we got some general NG changes, which I just want to roll up a bit. Flame Blast. So Flame Blast is the Flamethrower 2. It's a pretty duddish skill, I think. Back in the day, maybe we used to have fun blasting our might fields and stuff, but I mean, really, so it had a slight change. Not enough for me, I think, but this skill now targets the ground and will explode automatically when it goes to the target location. So it's just quality of life in using it and like flow. It's a bit like how they got rid of the Guardian Staff too, you know, a hovering orb that would later blow up.
Yeah.
They're doing it here as well. That skill too, I'd like to see some more potency on it, as well as the Elixir Gun too. But Elixir Gun's kind of power crept in other places. So, but anyway, yeah, we got that. Also, Light Strike here. Fixed a bug that caused this skill to display incorrect damage in PvP when under a certain trait, so not really a real change. And then coming down, we've got Shocking Speed. This trait now increases the radius of all Gyro's skills and causes them to grant super speed to nearby allies on their final pulse. So you can combo that with super speed, regenerates you really heavily and whatever, but that's your new Gyro trait to go with the Gyro changes. And then we got Expert Examination. This trait no longer alters a Gyro's behavior to inflict weakness and vulnerability upon its detonation. So just a blanket remove this part of this trait. And then we go to Hollow, all right? And by the way, when I first looked at these changes, first I looked for Mesmer nerfs, and we haven't talked about Mesmer yet. But first I looked at that, and then when I saw what there was at Mesmer, I looked immediately at NG because I wanted to see if there was any Prot Hollow nerfs. And there doesn't really seem to have been any. So I think that Prot Hollow is going to be very kingly coming up. But here, this is what Hollow's got. Crystal Configuration Storm. The projectiles fired by this trait no longer deal reduced damage. They updated the tooltip to use the phrase projectile range instead of range threshold, which is, you know, just consistency. So they know. So that's actually a buff, if anything, for Crystal Configuration Storm. For Eclipse, they reduced the traits. So this is the most meaningful nerf really here. Reduced the stability from 4 seconds to 2 seconds. So this is when you hit with Corona Burst, you apply stab. Yeah, half the stab duration. and you know, that is meaningful. That is something, and
That
definitely
is,
not to be
yeah.
sniffed at. But I still think there's a lot of other stuff that NG's pretty accelerated in right now. But then after that, you've got Crystal Configuration Zephyr. This now causes Hollow Leap to inflict Cripple 2 for a second, in addition to its
Fair
previous.
enough. I mean, it didn't do much before.
Right. So just some very slight stuff for Hollow there, but more about the gyros, right? Which is very similar to when we're looking at Warrior. Most of it just revolved around the banner stuff, and then there was a little few things in there. Ranger had across the board a lot of cool things. But there you go. So that's the changes. And I'm looking forward to trying some different scrapper variants. I see some supporty scrapper things I want to try out. I see some damagey ones, especially with the blast gyro as well. So yeah, we're on to your last one now, aren't we?
I don't know. I did Guardian. I did Thief. I did Warrior. Yeah, I'm on the last one. I'm on Mesmer, I think. So Mesmer had a lot of changes. I have not been keeping up well enough with the raid meta, so a lot of this might be going over my head a little bit, but they're pretty self-explanatory, a lot of these things.
I haven't really kept up either. I have seen feedback on what we're about to read, and the general sense is most chronos are just frustrated that basically every patch they have to learn a new rotation and reallocate gear to get back to where they want to be, kind of thing, to work around the nerfs or work within them.
Yeah, fair enough.
And people are starting to really loathe just the sense of that every balance patch. But, you know, they've not fallen out of favor or anything, and I doubt they will as masters of alacrity and quickness and so on. So, yeah. As for the rest, we'll just fumble for it.
Okay, so here we go. Mesmer. After watching Mesmer builds develop following our last update, we have a few more adjustments on both Chronomancers and Mirages. They didn't do much to Mirages last time. While we think that Signet of Inspiration's new functionality is working well, it's a little too strong, and we're slightly reducing both the recharge time and the extension of the boon's duration. This leaves it still a little on the strong side still, but we don't want to remove it entirely, fair enough. Similarly, the danger time trait ended up being too strong. We've been seeing some very high damage numbers coming out of Chronomancers who've been bringing up support skills. Okay. Lowering the Defiance bar damage on Signet of Humility made it fairer when compared to other Defiance breaking skills, but left it in an unsatisfying place due to its higher recharge time.
Yeah, I remember I said this. I said that the balance would be thrown.
Absolutely. We're lowering the recharge time in PvE areas to allow it to be used more frequently in situations where additional Defiance damage is needed. Finally, we're slightly reducing the duration of Mirage Cloak dodge in order to make it more like the normal dodge move. This is great. Well, interesting. Anyway, the first build,
great,
the first build. When we first built the Mirage specialization, we felt that the dodge window had to be larger than the normal dodge because you don't move.
Okay.
But as players have become more accustomed to the specialization, we found that this advantage is no longer necessary and kind of crazy. Coupled with the super speed that's granted with other minor traits, the Mirages can travel significantly further than a normal dodge while attacking anyway. This change does not affect the window of the ambush attack, however, which has always been on a separate timer.
Yep. A slightly long one. Yep. I mean, that change right there, they said for Mirage, to make it at least a normal dodge, has been on many people's lists. So I think a lot of people will be happy to see that. Right.
Yeah, this is good.
Okay.
Tides of Time. This skill's collision logic has been updated to reduce the instances where the projectile could be unexpectedly destroyed. The returning wave now returns toward the current location of the Mesmer rather than trying to predict the measure's future location based on movement speed and direction. The skill now applies quickness while traveling outward and alacrity while returning rather than alacrity both ways.
That sounds good. I feel like I have more control over that skill now.
Yeah, so now my question is, does it come back to where you started when you first cast the skill, or when it starts returning?
The returning wave now returns to the current location. Yeah, I don't know. Current, I guess, was when you cast the spell. But it applies quickness out and alacrity in. What was it before?
Originally it was quickness both ways, and then it was alacrity both ways.
So now it's half and half. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So then Well of Recall reduced the recharge time of the skill by 5 seconds from 30 to 25. That's the alacrity well.
Okay.
Probably to compensate for losing some alacrity on Tides of Time. Signet of Humility reduced the recharge time of the skill from 180 seconds to 120 seconds. So that's a reduction of that thing when they nerf the break bar damage of it.
Mowers. That's more fun for casual PvEing as well, I think, by the way.
Yep. Signet of the Ether, Aether. This skill's recharge time now begins at the same time as Phantasm skills are recharged.
Okay.
Sure.
Oh, I did read a thing about this. I think this
Okay.
affects power chrono stuff, and if the implementation is a certain way, it might really hurt power chrono, which supposedly is quite fun to play. That's just what I was reading last night.
Oh, okay. Mirage Cloak. All applications of the skill's effect have had their duration reduced to match the duration of a normal dodge roll. This change does not affect the timing window of ambush skills. So this is going to have a big effect on Mirages, basically.
Yeah. I really like this as well. It's a skill-based thing as well. If you just got to be more careful and precise about when you dodge, right?
Absolutely.
And probably I play a ton of Mirage at the moment, guys, and I've probably got a lot of really lazy muscle memory for dodges and dodge timings right now, which will have to be tuned up, and I think that's quite rightly so.
You're going to have to probably relearn it for sure. Sand, Speed of Sand, Super Speed's duration has been reduced to match the new Mirage Cloak duration.
Okay.
Makes sense. Splits, Imaginary, here we go, some axe nerfs. Imaginary axes reduce the amount of torment stacks applied in PvP and World vs. World from 3 to 1. This skill can no longer be used on targets behind the Mesmer as well.
So as the ambush, that's huge. That's really, really, really important. This will cut back on like the 30 torment stacks people can do with Infinite Horizon stuff. I think it's a good change. Well, hold on. The clones using it.
The clones will always be facing anyway, and I think it'll still be the same for the clone. Yeah.
If it doesn't affect the clones, then maybe it's not as big of a change as I thought it was when traded with Infinite Horizon. Really, what the nerfs needed to be was Infinite Horizon stuff on staff ambushes, axe ambushes, and the scepter stuff needed to be retooled. The evade on the 2, the 3 needed the power dropped and stuff. And none of that's really in this patch, by the way, guys. So there's a lot of nerfs I wanted for this class that are not here, which makes me quite sad. But fine. What else?
You get what you can get.
Yeah.
Then we got Ambush Assault. The skill can no longer be used on targets behind the Mesmer. I think I like these changes to the can't be used on targets behind Mesmers.
Yep.
Because frankly, like Mesmers with their dodging and their going back and forth around people, they've been able to use all these ambush skills and stuff and not face the target, like never have to reposition themselves, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just so easy for them to load up all of their damage really quickly. But if you actually have to face the targets, then it might slow them down a little. So then we got Split Surge. This skill can no longer be used on targets behind the Mesmer, once again.
Okay, that's the Great Sword ambush.
Signet of Inspiration, lower the extended duration of boons that this skill grants from 5 to 3 seconds. Woo, that's a big nerf.
Yeah.
So now it's in line with the Sand Squall now.
Yeah. So this is the big discussion really when it comes. It's the Signet of Inspiration, a nerf again. That's going to change things again for people. It's more spammable, but to look at it on paper now, it's such a weird, like, crappy looking skill. But again, as a utility that's not bound to weapons, as a chrono being able to double it, these are factors that change it from Sand Squall. Sand Squall's actually on a much higher cooldown as well. The GM trait drops Signet.
But hold on a second though. Listen to this though. Lowered the recharge time from 30 to 20 seconds.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, so it's more spammable now, but it's more incremental in what it does.
Yeah, it's like almost the same though.
That's what they said at the top though. It was a little too strong. We're slightly reducing both the recharge and the extension of the boon duration. So yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's going to be a whole world of, what's our new, what order? Everything about Chrono is going to be feeling really clunky, and then this will move to another clunky iteration. But yeah, it's just a slight reshuffle. They still think it's slightly on the strong side. There you go.
Okay. Well, then Axis of Symmetry, this one's pretty good. Reduce the skill's damage in World vs. World to match the PvP version of the skill, and the number of confusion stacks that this applies is now 3 in all game modes rather than 6.
So this is the D-target Axe 3 ability that hits people with some it's actually got good power damage on it as well, and I believe one of the recent patches affected the power damage but not anything else. Now they're hitting the Condi as well, which was the thing more people wanted. So yeah, they've halved the Condi on that. It's not 6, it's 3, which is okay, but it's still a very strong skill. What I was hoping from this is it would no longer detarget. The forced detargeting is but hey, it's a little something.
Speaking of force detargeting, we've got Illusionary Ambush next, the utility skill that detargets. Increase the recharge time of this skill from 20 to 35 seconds in PvP and World vs.
This is a very good nerf. I really like this. This is one of the key skills that does a ton of different things. Great engage, great disengage.
Yeah,
Damage loaded on it, evade. You can use it while stunned. It's not actually a stun break, but it will still reposition you and stuff. It's crazy skill. It has a much more fitting cooldown now.
Then Mimic got buffed a little bit because it got nerfed like crazy last time. The recharge time has been reduced from 40 to 30 seconds. But it still has that thing where when you use it on a skill, it gains that recharge time of the skill on top of it.
Now, what I've read from early speculation is for PvE Chronos, it's probably still like double well and Signet. But Mimic, I think in some formats I've seen people using it. And this is kind of cool, actually. An extra 10 seconds off of it. I love that skill.
Yeah. But because of the reduction of the effect of Signet of Inspiration, let's say, you're less likely to use Mimic on Signet of Inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people mimicking other stuff as well, like mimicking Blink to move massive gaps and stuff. Very fun. This is a good nerf coming up as well.
Cry of Yes. So this is the one that, remember when I made the Mirage build a while back? I was like, you use this line because of this one minor trait.
Right.
So here it is, Cry of Pain. The number of confusion stacks this trait allows Cry of Frustration to apply has been decreased from 2 to 1 in all game modes.
Right.
Which is
now
very
that's good. In fact, one of the more underrated comments I saw in one of our recent Boots Bad build was someone was assessing what made Mesmer so strong, and it was kind of the Mesmer rework shuffling Cry of Frustration like this. So yeah, big hit to the confusion application there, and I'm happy to see that.
I thought this was coming for a while now, because it's like the entire line is good, but Cry of Pain, the minor, the adept minor was just insane. Yeah. So yeah. Then we got Ineptitude. The confusion duration of this trait has been reduced from 3 to 2 seconds in PvP on World vs. World. Another nerf to confusion.
See, the funny thing is, I haven't actually used much Ineptitude builds for ages now. I don't know whether there's a lot of Ineptitude builds running around specifically in World vs. World. And some people are on Ineptitude, but that is not as big of a nerf as I think ArenaNet might have thought it was.
No, it just seems like they tried to nerf confusion, crazy burst across the board.
Like the old sword Ineptitude thing is pretty down and out already before even this.
Yeah. And then finally, Danger Time, which was also mentioned in the blurb at the top. The bonus critical hit chance of this trait grants is against slowed enemies has been reduced from 30% to 15%.
Because they felt that Chrono supports were doing a little bit too much damage.
Too much damage, yeah. So I mean, it's the critical chance that gets reduced. So
that's a PvE motivated thing. It does go everywhere. I'm quite happy to see that in the competitive formats too. There was some really funny after the last Chrono changes. There's been some really funny Chrono builds where you shatter for a little bit of quickness and use like the Scepter 3 and just do like 13k damage to someone straight away, and just it's amazing. And this will affect that a bit. So yeah, there you have it, Mesmer section. There's actually a really wide range, a real breadth of things that got changed on the class there.
Yeah,
core
stuff. There was a lot of nerfs to Mirage, so we'll see how it all pans out for them.
I don't think it's been nerfed as hard as ArenaNet probably thinks it's been nerfed, particularly with some of the most frustrating Mirage builds at the moment. In the competitive modes, this hasn't actually affected their stuff. And what's really frustrating isn't necessarily just their efficacy; it's the feel of how how it feels to fight against them because of the detargeting and all the unit spam. That none of this patch
but again, it's because of the detargeting, the recharge has been reduced a little bit.
Stealth access and stuff. I think that these are the things that really needed more. But there's some good stuff in there, like the Mirage Cloak duration and whatever. So don't let me speak too soon. But overall, I'm pretty underwhelmed with Mesmer nerfs and also NG nerfs too, I think.
Yeah. The good news is that it seems like it doesn't affect PvE that much.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's something I haven't actually thought about enough on this, to be honest, because Condi Mirage has been fun in some raid encounters in the past. All right, so then that leaves our last class. This time we have saved Revenant for last. That's going to be my one. I guess we'll review it afterwards. Here we go. So we're making some changes to the Revenant in this update that will curb their excessive condition damage in PvE and bolster their damage in PvP. Additionally, so by the way, excessive Condi damage? Okay. Additionally, we're making a few changes to help power builds that are struggling in PvE, but doing well in competitive modes. Targeted Destruction, for example, will now grant higher damage bonus in PvE areas where higher stacks of vulnerability can be maintained, but lower damage in competitive modes where applying multiple stacks of conditions is harder. Song of the Mist has struggled to compete with the other Grandmaster traits in the Invocation line, even after its rework, so we're improving various aspects of the skill, making them easier to land hits and stronger when fewer targets are struck. So I like their instincts on some of this stuff. I think vulnerability can actually be quite high in the competitive modes too. But so here we go. So Inspiring Reinforcement. This skill can no longer hit the same target multiple times in a single cast. So just a bit of housekeeping there, like we saw with Longbow F1 way back when on Berserker, or Coalescence of Ruin, I think it's called, on the hammer and stuff. So, yeah, Natural Harmony fixed a bug that could cause this skill to fail if the player was in the air or swimming on the surface of the water after the skill had finished charging. So that's Natural Harmony is the F2, right, for Herald?
Yeah, I think so.
Ashen Demeanor fixed a bug that could cause this trait to apply conditions to the Revenant if they were knocked off their mount. Not really relevant for most of the game, but there you have it. Targeted Destruction. So this is Shiro, the vulnerability miner, right? This grants 5% increased damage per stack of vulnerability.
0.5.
Instead, sorry, yeah, 0.5%. Instead of a flat 10. So it used to be...
0 to 12.5.
Yeah, so at the top end, it's better. At the lower end, it's worse. I actually think that's a good, reasonable buff, because vulnerability can go quite high, depending on comp and stuff. So yeah, and obviously in PvE, it's a nice little thing. It's a bit like the Reaper thing, you know, a small buff for their power playstyles. So Draconic Echo fixed a bug with this trait that prevented the lingering passive effects from granting boons while the Revenant was in other stances. That's a really important one. So this is the GM trait, I think it is, that means after you use the Consume, the passive element of it is still lingering, right? So,
right.
And that's really important when it comes to like the Fury facet, which you might activate the Consume to blind or to apply Reveal or something. But the Pulsing Fury is really important for Might generation because of how it combos in Invocation. So if you do that and swap to Shiro, you kind of lose Might, but now you don't, you know. And there's little things like that I think that's again, it's good. Not just a buff, but it's because it is a unification of how you'd expect it to work. Next, Shackling Wave. So this is the Sword 4 that they recently added the cast time on. It's a really awesome... I really like it with the cast time. It's one of the most fun feeling skills to land now. You know, because it's got a real wind-up. You feel like a god when you get it, and it does so much damage. Increase the skill's damage per each additional strike by 40% in PvE. And I like that.
That's a lot of damage.
I like that, yeah. PvE, you can kind of get away with doing stuff like that as well, right? Like, because it's kind of sort of a one-off thing. I don't think rotationally, because of the way the raids work and stuff, like a bigger spike there means too much. In terms of benching,
you got to line it up, a tiny bit of skill necessary there.
But this, I can imagine feeling like a really fun skill for running around open world and whatnot on now.
Oh sure, yeah.
Yeah. So
40%'s not this is one of those skills where 40% matters.
Yeah, it was a huge hit already, and 40% is a massive buff. Massive. So just in terms of running around and using it, it can mean a lot. In terms of benching at bosses and stuff, probably not as great as you might the first thing. Then they go into some Condi stuff, which is what I really wanted, but there's not been enough on Corruption or Malix, the Malix skills themselves and stuff. But here, so Mace main hand, the skill now applies 3 stacks of burning for 3 seconds on its first hit, and then 1 stack of burning for 1 second on the next 3. So this is actually a really good quality of life buff. It means that you get a significant amount of Condi damage from using the skills straight away, instead of hoping that they sort of linger in your field for too long, right?
Yeah.
The damage of the first hit also got doubled, but I don't think it really hit that hard. And they increased the recharge time from 3 to 6 seconds. That's fine because of the way that, like...
But that's only in PvP and World vs. World.
Yeah. And again, it's not like you spam them off cooldown in PvP and World vs. World. So that's actually a really intelligent way of balancing it there, I think. Next, Rampant Vex. This is critical hits apply Torment. That the Torment duration from that's been reduced a bit. So on all formats.
So I guess that's what they mean by curb the excessive Condi damage?
Yes, in PvE, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously, it affects all formats, but they're more so. Song of the Mist. So, Song of the Mist, and this is the last change for Rev. There's really not many. I'm sad to say, guys. Probably the least of all of them. Song of the Mist is the Grandmaster in Invocation, which means when you rotate into a legend, you cast a skill instantly with that rotation that does something. And it's competing as an Invocation Grandmaster with a really powerful trait, and that's the Fury is double effective, right? So this has to be really good. The devs can do it two ways. They can drop the Fury as more effective, or they can buff Song of the Mist. They're going with the buff on Song of the Mist. So the trait's radius first is up from 180 to 240. That alone is massive. Song of the Mist, I've tried a lot of Song of the Mist on like Condi core builds and stuff. And it's always annoying because it feels like it misses way more than it should. Now with the increased radius, lots more quality of life on that. I almost think at that alone, I'd be interested to see the result of that in a patch. But then also, the effects provided by each skill activated by this trait have been updated. So Call of Assassin. The stacks of the vulnerability it applies has been increased from 5 to 8. It grants 2 seconds of quickness with an additional 1 second per target that's hit. It's also no longer split between modes and uses its highest value in all modes. So Call of the Assassin, significant improvements. Call of the Dwarf. It now grants a baseline. So this is barrier. It was always barrier. It grants a baseline amount of barrier with additional barrier per target that's hit, similar to what they did with the quickness a second ago. Barrier values for each portion have been adjusted, and its damage, its flat packet, has gone up by 50%. Not sure that really means too much. Demon, they increased the duration of the torment from 6 to 8. Not sure it's really enough. But hey, I would have liked another cover Condi on there. Then it would have been really excited. If there was one packet of Confusion or something on that, just as a cover Condi, I would have been really excited. But anyway, Call of the Centaur. All they did there, this is already a big heal. They updated the radius of it. It was already a good heal though, so I'm not surprised there. Call of the Dragon inflicts burning. So again, kind of a Condi Herald builds. On Call of the Dragon is kind of interesting. Sorry, Song of the Mist is kind of interesting because the amount of burning has been doubled from 1 to 2. The damage is no longer split between game modes and uses its highest value in all of them. It's also been increased by 42% as a flat packet. So can I just point out that if you Assassin, the Shiro side, got significant buffs, and the Dragon side for flat damage got significant buffs, and Shiro Dragon Heralds are kind of best in slot at the moment. So, you know, that maybe not running the Invocation trait is actually... There's a real decision there, maybe, now. But the Fury is so much. And then finally, Call of the Renegade. The amount of bleeding that this skill can stack has increased from 1 to 2. It always grants at least 1 fervor in addition to additional stacks in other modes. Maybe when Renegade fervor functions differently is more interesting, that will be more of the thing. But yeah. So I never really liked the fervor stacks in the first slot. Yeah, it just doesn't feel great. And I've never really liked the Call of the Dragon, Song of the Mists having fervor interaction, honestly. But there you have it, guys. So that's Revenant, and I'm afraid that there's not that much more. They unfortunately didn't get an incredible amount. But yeah, you got any thoughts on it? So that's it, I guess. That's everything. Yeah, that's the whole patch. It took us quite a while to go through, and... Mostly because we had to stop 20 times so that I could play with the dog. He's good now that you gave him the... What was it, a bone? A tooth? Bone, yeah. He's sleeping now, but I think he's still sad that I didn't play with him enough. So I'm gonna do my best to take him out, do some fun stuff. Go give him a walk and stuff. It'll be brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. All right, well, there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed another episode of Balance with Boots. You might find another mini one as they do quick updates based on this in the coming weeks. They often do. And hopefully it won't be such a big gap between the next 2 balance patches. Overall, I got to say, I'm really interested in some of these changes, but I'm lukewarm about a lot of this release. But yeah, we'll see. It's not a huge balance patch, but there are some very interesting things. Oh, I still think it's a huge balance patch, like Harbinger Shroud and all the Gyro stuff and the banners and that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of interesting stuff in it. It's just not huge, you know, as when it comes to actual points made. Okay, fair enough. I also think there could be some really cool art stuff going on, and there might be real cause for a video showing this stuff off. So yeah, I hope to keep you guys updated. Thanks, Boots. It's been wonderful spending some time with you and Poutine. It's been great. And we'll be back for some Elite speculation very soon in the week, guys. So catch up for that. Yes, sir. See you next time.